We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live, Boxing Ego Unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Canelo already called cap on the Terrence Crawford negotiations. I've already made a video about that. Check that on the channel. What I want to talk about now in this Ego Thoughts video is Turki Al-Sheikh and his approach, because I see potential obstacles when it comes to this approach. Now, some people are like, yo, Ego, what are you talking about? So let me elaborate and let you know what I'm talking about. So Turki has a very, let's not beat around the bush. He has a very brash way of doing business. Like, you constantly hear Turki and he's making statements like he's the king of boxing. When he did the Crawford-Madrimov fight, I remember they interviewed him and Turki said something to the effect of, we've sent Canelo an offer for Crawford. And he's like, if he knows what's good for him, he will take it. It's a nice offer. You know what I mean? So he's talking real matter of fact. And then after that, Canelo said, I don't like the way this guy talks. I do what I want. You know what I mean? And pretty much I'm the A side. So things are on my terms. I don't know. Like, basically there seemed to be some kind of like tension, like almost like you had two alpha male type personalities that were clashing. So that's just one example of it. Is like, you're telling Canelo, who's been fighting since he was 15 and a pro since he was 15, and you're telling him like, take this deal if you know what's good for you. You know what I mean? I sent you an offer. Like, it's like some Godfather stuff. I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse, right? So it's like real Marlon Brando-ish to do it. Like, it's almost like a movie, right? And you know, he said other things like, Tim Tszyu, I don't know, he just doesn't get it. I don't know if I want to work with him. I might give him another chance. Like nose in the air kind of demeanor. Like, we get it. You're coming in, you got ideas, Riyadh season, you're trying to bring tourism to Saudi, the kingdom. I'm sure it's a beautiful place, but you know, it's just a way to approach certain things. And what he said about Canelo recently, I can potentially see it being a problem. Now, mind you, full transparency and disclosure, Canelo said, when it comes to business, you know, I'm always open to at least discuss business. You know, I'm a businessman, basically. So I'll hear anybody out. Doesn't mean I'm going to say yay or nay, but you know, I'll hear you out and see what you're talking about, see what you're on, right? So Canelo did say that, but he also revealed he is not currently in negotiations with anybody. He said that'll probably come after the holidays around January, right? So he's not, these are lies. Once again, low quality information in the boxing game. People lying and saying that he's in negotiations now for Crawford and it's going to happen at Allegiant Stadium, and then let the A side tell it he ain't in negotiations with anybody. And he's not even worried about boxing until January. He said he's spending time with his family. So I'm assuming Feliz Navidad, Christmas, he's going to enjoy the holidays with his kids and his family and his wife. You know what I mean? So craziness. But what Turki said recently is, I want to talk to Canelo and I want to deal with Canelo directly. No middleman, no like manager, no advisor. I want to try to petition and, you know, reason with him specifically. And again, this approach, I really don't know how this is going to work in boxing. Let me break it down. Ego thoughts. The reason being is, just understand the business, because I've been in this business making my money for double-digit years now, right? Think about it. Why would you employ, hire, and select a team? Managers, lawyers, attorneys, advisors. whoever, strength and conditioning people, you know, the life of a boxer, especially an A-lister boxer that has money like Canelo, right? Why would you set these things up? Canelo particularly, like as is the case with a lot of top level fighters, their team is pretty solid, at least core people. Like you look at Manny Pacquiao and he got Boo Boy. He's been had Boo Boy on his team for a while. He was with Freddie Roach for a while. You know what I mean? So he had the Australian strength and conditioning coach for a while. Like, you know, at one point, Alex Ariza for a while. So it's like you got the core members of your team. This is who you rocking with. And it's no different for Canelo, it's especially true with Canelo Alvarez, because Canelo, he kind of came up in the game as a kid, you know, 15 years old, preteen, and he was messing with Chepo and Eddie Reynoso. So that's kind of like, I don't know, a father. Chepo might be a father. Eddie Reynoso might be a big bro to him, but he really loved, you know, their relationship. And Eddie Reynoso's his manager and trainer and friend, like seemingly lifelong, because Canelo about 30 years old. So you've known Eddie Reynoso at this point half your life, if not longer, right? And then Turkey's telling him, I want to deal with you directly. No PBC, no Al Heyman, because you have a situation. It looks like you've been doing business. Canelo's been doing business recently with PBC. Not them, not Chepo, not Eddie Reynoso, not your wife. I want to talk to you and you alone to try to get a deal. So we'll see. You know, I don't know how optimistic I am with that approach, because Canelo, I think Canelo has to lead. I think he's earned it. He's been in the game. He's already made a lot of money. So I don't think a person like Turkey or whoever is going to just wave a bunch of money in his face. He has like his own telephones and buildings and stuff in Mexico and restaurants and property and all this type of stuff. I think he did an executive producer of a movie recently, a golf movie. You know what I mean? He has like clothing and merch. He has businesses. So I feel like if you look at Riyadh season, many of the people that are sought out, they're getting paid something that their market value would never allow them to make that. Let's be real. Like, because you have to sell. There's guys like Virgil Ortiz. Can he sell? Like, how many people watch the Boachuk fight? And I wish more people watched it because it was a good fight. But what I'm saying is, like, that wasn't a Riyadh season show, and it was like very low. Like, this wasn't like this big fight. But then now, you know, being on Riyadh season, they're gonna overpay you and things like that. So guys like that, they need that. Because there's nowhere else where they can make that type of money. But Canelo, he can make money with just about anyone. He's an established brand. So I'm just curious how this is gonna work. And I liken it to, let's say you were in the market to buy a home, right? And the realtor was saying, hey, Tony, I know you want to buy this home and I want to sell it to you, but I want to deal with you and you alone. Even though you're married, exclude your wife from the discussion. I want to give you a tour of the home. I want to show you the backyard. I want discussions to only be held with you, right? Leave her out of it. Leave your wife out of it. This ain't like a girlfriend. This ain't somebody you met on Tinder. This is your wife. And then the realtor is saying, let's handle the business and sell you this home. And you don't ask for her input. Don't include her. That's the equivalent of kind of what Turkey is doing. You know, what's the point of having a team if Canelo negotiates on his own and he does everything? You know, might as well just not have a lawyer. Just send Canelo a contract. Don't have a lawyer read it over and make sure there's no mistakes and, you know, any trickery on the contract. It just doesn't, to me, knowing this game, knowing this business, that doesn't make sense. And it kind of makes you wonder, why is Turkey so insistent on speaking to Canelo and Canelo alone? Like, when has that ever been a thing? Like, if Eddie Hearn was trying to do a fight when he was working with Canelo, he never said that. He never said, like, yo, I just need to talk to you, leave Eddie and Chepo and all them at home. You know, he's perfectly fine speaking the business and speaking to Canelo and his team. So I don't really understand it. And if you guys understand it, let me know in the comment section. But again, it's like the realtor trying to sell you the home and tell you don't include your wife. Like, what's the point of being in a marriage or a partnership if you make all the decisions on your own and, you know, she just got to just live with it? So I don't really know that that's the ticket to get the Canelo Crawford fight done. I think Canelo truly is going to have to lead in the promotion, and that's just the way I see it. So I think Turki, you know, he could get to a level where he overstays his welcome because, yes, he has money, but he's also doing random things. There's a lot of negotiating in public. He was, from what I understand, Saudi is trying to redirect the focus and bring the fights back to Saudi instead of like America and these other locations. This was supposed to be about bringing tourism back to Saudi, and I think they're kind of reeling that back in. Then you also have Turki did a recent interview, said he wants to make John Jones versus Francis Ngannou, and I doubt the UFC would allow that. Dana White said John Jones versus Aspinall is what he's working on. So you see what I'm saying? This is a conflict. Turki is putting out there UFC versus PFL. These are two different organizations. To my knowledge, they've never worked together. And I get it that Riyadh season and the Saudis have a lot of money and oil money and stuff like that. But you're kind of like scrambling up people's business. I don't know that Dana White wants to risk his all-time great John Jones with a menacing puncher with another promotion, and he don't even like, Dana White doesn't even like Francis Ngannou and said he don't ever want to work with him again. You see what I'm saying? So here you have Turki, who, you know, he's working with DAZN and PFL. He has worked with the UFC, and he's saying he wants to make this fight. I just don't know how some of these things are going to necessarily work, because look at it from the UFC perspective. And I'm not saying John Jones loses to Francis Ngannou, but from a business perspective, you have an all-time great in John Jones. He's a champion at heavyweight. You did business with Francis Ngannou. You don't really want to be in the business with Francis Ngannou because of, you know, past rifts or whatnot. And you put John Jones in there. What if he lost to Francis Ngannou? Then what? Now the UFC has a all-time great that just lost or got knocked out or whatever happens. And then PFL has the heavyweight champion, and it shows that, you know, he's the man, and he just goes on and the PFL's winning, and then the UFC takes a major L. I don't see how that's going to work. And I'm not saying that from a perspective, John Jones versus Francis Ngannou, that would be a good fight. But the point I'm making is the business got to make sense for both parties. That's how you get big fights. Like Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor, Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. The money you would be leaving on the table to not do those fights was obviously too much, to the point where the business aligned and made enough sense for them to come together and make those fights. But UFC doing a deal with the guy that they kind of severed their relationship with, Ngannou, when they can clearly do John Jones, Tom Aspinall, I don't know if that makes sense. Just like this Canelo situation where Canelo, I don't know if it makes sense for him to even fight Crawford. I mean, you're going to have to pay him a lot of money, because Canelo already told you that what's in it for me? It's another smaller guy. People are going to say he moved up 2, almost 3 divisions because he only got one fight at 154. So what do I really gain from fighting Crawford? You know what I mean? So this is how I see it. And 2025 is going to be funny. It's going to be a fun year, and it's going to be a funny year. And I can't wait to see how this stuff plays out. But watch this space. Everything that I've said in this video, I'm very curious to see how this all plays out, because Turki's approach, I don't think it's for everybody. And I think, you know, to the point where it could influence, I really feel like it could influence people's stable. Like right now, everybody's just like making money and getting overpaid. So they're not really thinking long term. But what if the Saudis like reduce the budget or pull out of boxing? Then it's gonna really impact people, because like Eddie Hearn got half of his fighters decimated by Frank Warren fighters, and you came in and offered a lot of money and made the matches you want with no real long-term succession plan or direction, and scrambled up people's careers. And then what? You know what I mean? Like, Turkey put Jared Anderson, who is young. He got praise from Tyson Fury, and they were saying that he was next up. He would be the next American heavyweight champion. You put him in with big old Martin Bacoli, and he gets tore out the frame, his head bobblehead and snapping every orientation, and he's super young. And now Top Rank got to pick up the pieces. I don't even know, like, who did they even put him in there with now? Because he stepped up to the Bacoli level, and that obviously didn't work. So coming off a nasty loss, he's a guy who said he wanted to retire young. On top of that, now that he lost in that and has a family now, I don't even know what Top Rank, like, what is his next fight? You know, how do you rebuild him? So the money, that is definitely cool, but I'm curious about the long term of things. Like, for example, if Canelo fights Crawford, I would favor Canelo. That's how I see it. So you pay and pony up and pay a bunch of money to make this happen, right? Hypothetically. Then what? Canelo gonna keep going on about it if what I said happens, obviously. And then what? Crawford will probably retire if he loses to Canelo. So I don't really understand the vision with some of these moves. And it just seems like a bunch of one-offs with no real like developmental plan. It's just like almost like a video game. Let me just make a bunch of matches. Like, for example, Sean O'Malley was doing very well for himself in the UFC. He was considered one of the best strikers and had a crazy stand-up game, fun to watch, the rainbow hair, you know, eccentric personality, and he has some charisma, and he has some good wins. You put him in there with a Russian durable wrestler, and that he looked probably the worst that he's looked in his career in the Sphere. The whole Sphere, like the Riyadh season, I felt like it was overrated. I think it would be cool if you were there live, but it didn't look like nothing crazy. It looked kind of weird, to be honest. I prefer the regular UFC shows. And you spent $20+ million on pre-production and production for it. And they say, oh, this was the all-time live gate, but it's kind of capped because the gate was whatever it was because of the ticket prices, but how much did you invest into it before? So that's like Gladiator 2, and they say, oh, it made $100 million. Yeah, but it cost $250 to make it. You know what I mean? So like, that's not good unless you make more on the back end, on the flip side, than it costs for you to develop the movie or make the movie. You know what I mean? Produce it. So a lot to think about, a lot that I just unpacked. Let me know what you guys think. But Canelo Crawford, I don't know that it happens. And if it does, I think it's really going to be on Canelo leading the negotiations. And I don't know how that's going to be with Turkey saying, I only want to deal with Canelo directly. I don't even know if Canelo is good with that term. Because again, why does he have certain people in place if he doesn't utilize them? It makes no sense. If you can make it make sense, holla at me in the comment section. We unpacked.